Hey, what's up, everybody? Infamous here, doing a little balanced discussion today for the Elder Scrolls Online. Was checking out the forums recently, and of course, came across this post talking about the Scattershot nerf ruins bow gameplay. It says the whole purpose of playing bow is to play from range. You're weak at melee scenarios, and to reduce the distance at which you can use bow stun is significant nerf. In Battlegrounds, you'll be a free kill to any enemy player with a gap closer. I really hope they revert this change. If you've ever played a bow build like I recently have, I can definitely say that bow is by no means a free kill from anybody who gap closes you. Originally, the range on Scattershot was 15 meters, and the primary purpose of the ability was when someone came in melee range that you would knock them away from you. They subsequently changed it, turned it into a 28-meter ability, gave it this ridiculous heal, increased the heal to it, and people just use it to troll you. This happens very often where out of nowhere there'll be like some random Nightblade that will literally just boast on you just for the sake of boast on you. He's not looking to engage you, he's not looking to try to combo you. It's just like the ability is so cheap. I mean, on a medium armor build, it costs maybe around 1800 stamina, which is typically next to nothing because you can heavy attack from sneak and then hit the person with the bow stun, and that's actually a stamina gain because of the stamina return on a heavy attack. Real easy to use. The ability is a utility ability. It's meant to give you a burst heal after you've been gap closed by obviously a melee character, and to give you that brief moment to knock them back, and then subsequently heal up, dodge roll back, and then try to reposition, hit them with a poison injection, and then re-engage the person from close range. Typically what happens, either you get the kill or you end up, if the person is better than you, then you end up getting killed, which is the scenario that this person is talking about. Most people who play bow builds typically just snipe spam, and typically, yes, snipe spammers are free kills. As a BG exclusive player, this is typically the targets that I enjoy targeting when I find people who are primarily bow snipers, especially if they're not a Nightblade. They're typically a free kill. Even most Nightblades that do that, for the most part, it's just Cloak is OP, so a lot of times they get away. With that said, the reason for the discussion is because in the Elder Scrolls Online, from a casual perspective, if you've ever come across, look at the forums is always buff this, nerf this, buff this, nerf this. They changed the damage on snipe. They reduced the amount of damage, and rightly so. I feel that they didn't reduce it enough. If you've ever seen what a tooltip looks like on a well-built bow build, I'll show you. This is a no CP bow build. Right, so if you've ever come across a person who's been playing the game for a fairly long time, typically they, I should say, would know how to build. As you can see on this particular build, it's sporting just about 6k. This is a specialized build, but even without that, even without the Master's Bow, which is what I'm working with now, fully buffed up, I'm topping out at about 5500 weapon damage. If you've ever seen what a snipe ability looks like on a ranged bow build, it's kind of ridiculous. As you can see right there, the tooltip on focused aim is 40 meters and is really just shy of 14k. On top of that, it gives you minor fracture, so that your next one will do more damage. Now, you're hitting from 40 meters. You have the advantage of a ridiculous amount of range. For the next patch, they did nerf the gap closers. So gap closers are going to be reduced in terms of their range even further. So literally, you can snipe people at 2 times the range of any gap closer. With that said, I would like them to see them reduce, either change the way snipe works. In my opinion, you shouldn't be able to do this much comparable damage to something, for example, like uppercut. If you take a look at the tooltip on Dizzy on this particular build, it's actually weaker than snipe spam. Same amount of cast time as snipe. The only difference is snipe hits harder. Of course, if you're a Nightblade, it hits even harder because you gain the guaranteed crit from Cloak, as well as obviously if anybody even just looks at you, you just cloak away and reset the fight. Typically, most Nightblades aren't great players. I agree with that. Most of the Nightblades that I come across aren't the greatest of players. but most of them get carried by snipe damage as well as, of course, cloak. But in the hands of a player who knows how to build, these abilities then start to overperform, which is why you'll hear, which is why we have the current complaints on the forums of, well, this ability should be rebuffed. I've seen people actually say that this ability should have a 28-meter knockback, where it knocks you back for 28 meters and roots the opponent. In this forums, people are like, yeah, since gap closers, are 20 meters, the knockback where it knocks you back, right? It knocks the bow user back, should be equivalent to a gap closer. And I was like, what? And root you and heal you and do damage? You ever seen what the tooltip is on Scattershot just on this build alone? A heavy attack into a Scattershot, right? Heavy attack on this build is roughly just shy of 11k. And then a drain shot tooltip is at a tooltip of 7,000 damage. Look at the heal on this ability. It's 11,000. Again, on the build that I'm shooting for, of course, it does a little bit more. It does a little bit more damage. As you can see, it's a 12k heal with almost a 7,600 drain shot. It's unrealistic. And you can take a look at what Snipe does, right? Snipe 14.5k. You can't balance from the bottom up, because what happens is all it does is it continues to widen the gap between good players and bad players. So yeah, sure, you buff Snipe, and all it does is it buffs every other good player who utilizes these abilities and knows how to build. In my opinion, what I think that they should do with focused aim is that they should give it the same range as the new Scattershot, 15 meters, because there is no problem dealing damage with acid spray. I mean, look at the tooltip on acid spray. Most single target abilities, if you're like, for example, like a Magicka DK, your single target whip in no CP is typically going to be less than 8,000. Surprise attack is typically going to be less than 8,000. It'll be like 8,000, 8,100, 7,800, depending upon how you build. Look at the ridiculous poison injection, and this can be kept up 100% of the time, because it literally is just Kina and then the back bar light attack with the master's bow. There's really no reason that you wouldn't be able to maintain, at the very least, just the back portion of it. Even if you weren't, let's say, even if you weren't maintaining Kina, 5,200 on a bow build, your abilities are still going to have ridiculously high tooltips. Most stamina builds, most stamina melee builds are between 4 and 5k. And so, of course, for the risk reward, right, the risk of you being in melee combat is that you actually get to do less damage than someone spamming snipe from 40 meters away. That's an imbalance in the game that I think should be fixed. It should be fixed right away, because there's really, you can use other abilities, for example, like Silver Shards. Silver Shards still a good ability to utilize. I'll show you some game clips of me actually playing the build fully. I'm still, I think on live, I'm only topping out at like 4,700 because I still haven't changed my bow to Nernhond, and I don't have the Master's Bow as of yet, but it's something that I'm working towards for this particular build. But on this particular build, you can see that Silver Shards does a fairly amount of damage. A heavy attack into a Silver Shards is going to typically hit most players, especially a light armor or medium armor player, for about 10,000 between the combo, because the crit will typically deal around 6.5k to upwards of 8k on a heavy attack on this build. And then a Silver Shards crit is typically going to be about between 3 and 3.5k damage, depending upon, of course, if they have like major, minor protection, or if they're running a lot of critical resist, etc. But from a long-time player, I would definitely like to see them remove some of these abilities that are overperforming, like Snipe, in the hands of a good player, especially things like, for example, Toxic Barrage. I would love to see Toxic Barrage be like a 1-second channel. It does a big amount of burst damage, and maybe make it so that it either couldn't be dodge rolled or like kind of like Toxic Barrage. But as you can see, dealing, what is this, 120,000 damage, 80, let's just say 80k and 47k. It's around like what, 130 maybe over the course of 12 seconds. It's a ridiculous amount of damage to be able to do to a player. Like I said, for a player who's been playing the game for a really long time, These are some of the things why I always say you can't balance ESO from the bottom up. You have to balance the game from the top down. What I would love to see them do is take something like focused aim and call it point blank. Make focused aim equivalent to the new drain shot, make it 15 meters, or call it something like triple shot. When someone gets within near range, you release a volley of 3 arrows, and the last arrow that you release has a chance to crit. This way, when someone gets in melee range to you, you can quickly bow stun and then immediately hit, triple shot, and that does a really good amount of damage. It helps to keep players away from you. It gives you the stun, the HP return, and then you deal fairly good amount of burst damage from close. You could do the same thing, for example, with a heavy attack into a silver shards. But when you look at the damage from things like arrow spray, and of course arrow barrage does really good damage. Poison injection tooltip, like a melee bow build by no means does weak damage, especially on a DK utilizing corrosive armor. Works really good on a lot of other builds. It will also remove the whole cloak snipe, where you take all 3 snipes all at once, and you have very little counterplay to builds like that, because literally the night blades are 40 meters away from you, and the moment you turn your character and you look at them, they just cloak away and disappear into the mist, and you can't do anything to counter them. That's the sort of gameplay where there is a high reward and absolutely no risk. And that's something that I think should be removed from ESO. That's my opinion as a long-term 5-year player. I do play bow builds. I'm sure you've been watching the clips that you've seen right now. Thanks for listening. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I look forward to your opinions. Let me know what you think. Am I wrong? Should they revert the change to Scattershot, or do you feel it should be nerfed even more? Getting pressed by both teams. Ah, man, you got killed way too early, man. Fucking night blades, man. Team. Yeah, once that Nightblade went down, that just totally fucked us. GG's. That was a close one. That was a close one. 1.3 mil. It's not bad damage. for a pleb bow build